Hey, everybody, welcome back. Craig Shoup here with George Thomas, our film critic from the Akron Beacon Journal. George, how are you doing today?
I am fresh off a screening, the first screening of the day for Thunderbolts, because Disney did screen. They're
Well,
treating it a bit differently from other releases. So.
that happens. Well, I'm glad you were able to go to the theater, though, and watch a movie for a change. I know you've had a few more movies in theaters lately, which is a good sign. So our first movie is Thunderbolts, obviously a sort of a anticipated follow-up to the Black Widow movie, although not a sequel necessarily, but branching off from that Black Widow world where they introduced Florence Pugh's character. I actually liked Black Widow. I thought it found a really decent tone for self-deprecating, not taking itself too seriously, maybe satirizing the superhero movies a little bit. I know you didn't like it so much, but is Thunderbolts an upgrade for you?
Thunderbolts is definitely an upgrade. And, I just finished setting my review to post tomorrow morning. This is the atypical comic book movie. I was, it's kind of two movies in one. I was really surprised for it because director Jake Schreier creates a film where all the requisite action is there. It's there without a doubt. But he I don't know if it's correct to say he deconstructs what they've built over the last 17 years with 36 Marvel films or not. But it's obvious from the way it shifts focus and tone that the film goes for something different and succeeds at getting it there. Because, like I said, the action is there. It just comes in unexpected ways. And it allows Jake Schreier, it allows him to, it allows him to free Marvel from what's to be expected from the fanboys in the genre. Satisfies the fanboys, and it's like it almost, everyone recognizes this genre, particularly Marvel, needs a refresh. And they're giving it to us.
Right.
It's darker in tone. And then you look, it's darker in tone. Florence Pugh is wonderful as Yelena. She was great in Black Widow. She was, dare I say, the best thing about Black Widow. But when it's freed from that Marvel formula and it's become formulaic, obviously.
Yeah.
It's going to allow them to do more things going forward. And I can finally say with Marvel once again, expect the unexpected. Because if we're being honest, in 2008, Iron Man was somewhat unexpected.
Yeah.
There have been a few more surprises. Black Panther was unexpected.
Right.
I mean, they were great films. And I'm trying to think of, there have been so many Marvel movies, and I own all of them, except the new Captain America movie, which I don't think has been released in 4K yet, but I have to check. But that's beside the point. The film overall deals with the forming of quote unquote the Thunderbolts, and you notice there's an asterisk in that title. It's hilarious how they explain that, and you'll get it after you see the movie, if you see the movie. But fans will get it, and it's about the formation of this super team with led by Valentina Allegra Dufontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And you know what? They're setting this up. They're setting all this up to be the anti-Avengers. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she's the anti-Nick Fury because she's dirtier than hell.
Right.
It includes, obviously, Yelena. Sebastian Stan is back as the Winter Soldier. It's always good to see Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
Hannah John-Kamen joins the cast as Ghost. David Harbour as the Red Guardian is an absolute joy.
Which he was in Black Widow too.
Yeah,
I thought he
but
and Pugh really, I mean, obviously nothing against Scarlett Johansson, but those two were kind of fresh and unique characters to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in all the best ways.
Oh, absolutely. They're given more to chew on here. As they aren't related by blood.
Right.
But they are father and daughter.
Right.
And it comes through. And it comes through in the scenes that they have together, which are, for anyone who's been estranged from a parent or even struggled to have a relationship with a parent, you can empathize with what they're going through and what they're dealing with. Wyatt Russell, oh my God, who's the ex-Captain America from Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right.
Wyatt Russell does a great job of playing a jerk. I mean, and let's face it, John Walker is a jerk. He's an envious, arrogant, just weasel. Don't like the character. Yeah. But he's necessary. And now this super team comes together, and I don't want to spoil too much, although there are other reviews out there now. But now they are forced to team up after they're trapped in a facility where they're all hired to eliminate evidence of experiments that a corporation, Valentina, worked with. And they soon realize that, oops, we're evidence, because they were hired to kill one another.
Right.
And they're forced to team up and soon realize they have another foe to deal with, courtesy of that facility where they were trapped and forced to work together to get out. It's entertaining. What the director and the screenwriters do to elevate this, I approve of. It's time, great approval, because it's timely. It makes you think. Dare I say it causes you to, I won't say cry, but it really makes you feel for the characters involved when you see what's going on. Again, it just frees Marvel up to do other things. Yeah. And before you ask, there are two there's a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. Once somebody in the theater screamed at the final extra scene. Like,
okay. Oh, was it scream worthy then, I take? Or?
It depends. I'll let you know. I don't want to spoil it.
Well, it's good that, we've seen the ragtag group of anti-heroes come together before. DC has done it twice with Suicide Squad. So this isn't necessarily, breaking new ground per se, but I think it's maybe giving some fresh eyes for Marvel at least. And I think it's, by the sounds of it, maybe it's doing it better than the first Suicide Squad movie did, although I did enjoy the James Gunn Suicide Squad quite a bit. Even though no one saw that apparently because it just never did any money at the box office. But,
yeah, that's a crime. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
It really was. Yeah. But it sounds like Marvel is maybe finding its footing again here, and maybe at the best time possible because they have another big property coming out with Fantastic Four. They have the Avengers Doomsday movie shooting right now with a release planned for next year. So this is probably the best time possible for Marvel to be kind of finding its footing with what they're doing with the MCU.
Well, absolutely. And I think it's going to bring, let's face it, they're always going to have that fanboy audience. Fanboys are going to go to theaters to check it out. I recommend, if you can see this in a in a theater with a booming sound system, by all means do so. But they're always going to have that.
Yeah.
I mean,
nothing like the joy of
but I think along the way they lost a lot of casual fans.
Yeah. And a lot of that's probably, do you think maybe a lot of that is just inundating the theater with movie after movie after movie, year after year, whether there be starting off slow with maybe one movie a year, and then now there's two, and then now there's three, and it just seems like it's maybe beating you over the head with too many movies released in a calendar year?
Well, I look at it this way. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
But I'm pressed to, after Endgame, Avengers Endgame, to remember a Marvel film that really, well, Black Panther 2 did, simply because of what it was,
Right.
which is more of a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. But beyond that, I'm hard-pressed to remember one that left an impression. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. All right, well, a final grade for Thunderbolts.
It will have a B plus online at beaconjournal.com tomorrow morning at 6
All
a.m.
right, well, yeah, you'll have to check out the beaconjournal.com for all of George's reviews. This has to be the summer, or I guess late spring, early summer, of movies that come out with a sequel years after the first one, because here we have The Accountant 2 that came out a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago now, and then now we have another Simple Favor. This is a sequel to the 2018 movie. So again, a long delay now, maybe COVID, maybe, the writer's strike, things like that might have had something to do with it. But did we need another Simple Favor to come out here this year?
I'm going to confess to something. I didn't realize it was a sequel.
Yeah.
And that movie must have flown way under the radar. No, I gave it a C minus. I'll tip to that right off the bat. No, we didn't need this. It's the only thing that makes this remotely worth watching is the interplay between Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. And this is unapologetically vulgar. Which I never mind. But it's not particularly well written. It's beautifully shot because it takes place on an Italian island called Capri. So you're a director. You get to play in the Mediterranean. You go all out. And director Paul Feig does. But the plot is convoluted. Neither character, despite that interplay, is particularly likable. I don't know that you need that all the time, but it would certainly help in this case. And it just seems so, the pacing is off. It's just not very funny, and it's supposed to be a comedy. And I saw it in the theater.
Okay.
This is a streaming right now on Amazon Prime Video. I just wasn't that enthralled with it.
Well, it's disappointment because, as you mentioned, the director, Paul Feig, he's made a couple of really standout comedies over the last 15 years with Bridesmaids, a personal favorite of mine, The Heat, which I thought was just so much fun. So it's kind of disappointing. He's had a wildly uneven career there, but because he had the Ghostbusters reboot in 2016. He's kind of had an uneven career overall, but he did direct A Simple Favor, so he's back in the director's chair here. But kind of seems more like a cash grab, and it's weird because this is a movie that right now the original you can see on Netflix, and then of course, as you mentioned, Amazon Prime gets this one. So I'm kind of wondering the continuity between the two there. They're not really going to be sharing it, I highly doubt. So maybe Amazon just felt like they could capitalize on a somewhat intellectual property here that was already out there and decide to make a sequel that maybe Netflix didn't care for or another studio didn't care to make?
It's curious that they did this, considering they're not releasing it in theaters. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, The Accountant too. I get that went to theaters,
right?
And it's basically setting up a franchise. This I don't get.
Yeah.
And
well, it apparently made money though. The first one made almost $100 million on a $20 million budget. So I mean, that's money talks. It just seems like 7-8 years later, or 6 years later in this case, just seems like a weird well to drop into there.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I'm glad I'm out of that well. So there we go.
Well, that happens sometimes. We do appreciate you giving us that insight there. What I know next week's kind of a slower week, obviously, because Thunderbolts is going to be dominating the box office probably, and maybe even Sinners. I mean, what do you think about Sinners? A great second weekend. A 6% drop is almost unheard of in Hollywood. And what a time for Sinners. That movie is going to go from big risk, maybe not making a profit, to it looks like it's going to be profitable for Warner Brothers. And Ryan Coogler bet on himself, and he bet big and won big.
Third week it's going to be profitable because it's over 200 million now. Break even was 150 according to Variety and their freaking biased as hell headline. But
I heard as much as 190 million was needed to be profitable. But either way, it's on that verge. It's at 175 right now, which is, again, I mean,
but between it's going to make a boatload of money between box office, streaming, video on demand,
right? Oh yeah,
and there's still a physical media audience out there. Yeah. So you know what? That's what I think. It's like, yeah, okay, it's going to make a boatload of money, and will it have legs for a third week? I think a lot of people still want to know what the hubbub is about. And I think, you know what? With Thunderbolts being the only competition this week, if you're looking for something different and you haven't seen Sinners, you're going to go. And you should go. And I recommend Thunderbolts, too.
Yeah. Maybe a double feature for movie fans out there. They can actually see more than one good movie maybe at the box office for a change. So, yeah, I mean, it's great news for original filmmaking and movie fans and people that want to see something that they've never seen before, or something that's going to, stay in their minds more than just the next weekend and when the next movie comes out. And that's kind of what Ryan Coogler has done with Sinners. And it's a big bet that everybody made involved. And Coogler is going to come out being able to pretty much call his next shot, really, when it comes down to it, which is also a great thing because this is what we talk about. We want original filmmaking, and we want the best of the best filmmakers to be able to make the movies they want to make.
Absolutely. And Coogler, with 5 films, has joined a very, very rarefied class of directors, young directors.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really, I mean, he's made a mark. He's made a mark already in such a short amount of time. I think it's a testament to not just the quality of his talent, but also the quality of his eye for the projects that he's getting involved with. Like, he understands what can work and putting his critical eye on things and making sure they're the right projects too.
Absolutely. And like you said, he bet big on himself, and I really hope he gets super rich. So there we go.
I think he's on that category very soon. As the dogs go nuts in the background, are you streaming anything? What have you been watching or catching up on lately?
Yeah, you're not old enough to remember this movie. The 4 Seasons.
I'm a little before my time, but I'm aware that they've remade. Tina Fey is in charge of remaking this here with Steve Carell.
And you know what? It hit me while watching that series today, because I'm going to review it in my streaming column next week. That I always wondered who Tina Fey was the equivalent of. from when I was a much younger individual. And it hit me today. Tina Fey is Tina Fey, but Tina Fey can also be called the female Alan Alda. And it hit me when Alan Alda made a cameo in this series.
Okay.
The 4 seasons has 8 episodes. They're half-hour episodes. I got through 5 today before I had to vacate my home and go to the theater. And it's intelligent, it's funny, and it deals with 3 couples over the course of 4 seasons in a year. And it goes through all their trials and tribulations and how one of the couple's breakups affects the rest of them. And it's well done. It's funny. Stephen Carell, like you said, Tina Fey. My man, what's his name?
Coleman Domingo?
Yes. And you
Will
know,
Forte, a lot of people in this.
Yeah.
Show, yeah.
Coleman, and it's not Coleman Domingo, and I don't know if he's addressed his sexuality in other roles before, but I do know in the Big Mama Thornton movie with Chadwick Boseman, he played a piano player. But I do know he's out, and he gets to play a strong gay man in this film. And it's cliche to say it seems more authentic because he's a great actor. But you know what? It adds something to his performance. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like freeing. And overall, I don't see how you miss, if you will, especially if you're in my age. When I realized what I was looking at, I'm like, Alan Alda, Hawkeye Pierce, very nice.
Yeah.
Back then, the 4 seasons was a hit for people who were my age back then. And this is before the entire blockbuster mentality existed. This was 1981. And,
right.
Jaws established the blockbuster, but
right.
it really didn't become entrenched probably until, let's call it, Return of the Jedi, or possibly the first Indiana Jones film, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
It really didn't become entrenched until then.
Right.
And the 4 seasons was one of those smaller movies that people just went to see and enjoy.
Yeah. Okay. Anything coming on the horizon? I know next week's a little light at the box office, but anything coming out next week that you might be able to review?
Let's see. There is nothing. Everything is cleared out. I mean, everything is cleared out for Thunderbolts. It's going to be a duel between Thunderbolts and Sinners, where we know who's going to win it. But
right.
I'm curious to see what Sinners does.
It's all happening too fast.
It seems like whatever it does, it's going to be gravy on top here because they're already in that profitability range. I mean, it's great to see that because I think it just shows that people want to see something unique and original, and they're going to go to the Avatar 12 and they're going to go to the latest Marvel or DC movie, but it's good to see that, original filmmaking is alive and well, and it just hopefully will gain more momentum moving forward.
Oh, I agree. I'm looking forward to it.
I will say real quick before we go, one thing that I would recommend is season 2 of The Rehearsal. The Nathan Fielder show is back on HBO on Sunday nights, streaming on Max, of course. I know I mentioned it years ago. It came out in 2022 with season 1. Basically, the premise is you are rehearsing big moments of your life, whether it's a big speech for someone you love or whatever, you're rehearsing it with Nathan Fielder, who kind of guides you into different directions. Episode 2 of season 2 that just aired last Sunday, and I try not to be too recency biased, but this episode might have been one of the best episodes of TV of any kind that I have watched in so long. Basically, the premise of the episode is this season he's delving into why the FAA is seeing so many plane crashes and how they could maybe be avoided. Well, this episode, he dives into an American Idol ripoff that he also used to work on with Canada. But the best part about this episode was, you may remember he had the Nathan For You show on Comedy Central, which would have been a Paramount project. So that show is on Paramount Plus. One episode is missing from his filmography on that show, and it happens to deal with the episode in which he creates a product line that donates all of the money and the profits to the Anti-Semitism Museum and Education Outreach in Vancouver, where he's from. And that episode was removed because Paramount Plus Germany apparently thought they wanted to get rid of the sensitivities of anti-Semitism and, not stoke fire on any of that stuff. And apparently it's spread to a lot of other Paramount Pluses, including in America. So Fielder creates this episode where he mimics the map of the spread of Paramount Plus's Germany's reach to other facets of the country and of the world, much like a Nazism spread map that you might have seen in the World War II era. And it was so well crafted that it's on another level for me, George. Just this type of television making and just making an episode that kind of paints Paramount Plus in a terrible light, which it should.
They're not having Paramount's not having a good time lately.
No, and obviously they, I'm not saying that Paramount Plus are Nazis, but in this episode he equates their dictatorshipness, if you will, in terms of letting one Paramount Plus Germany dictate the rest of everybody's scheduling of TV programming. And it's just a wildly entertaining but insightful episode into this Jewish man's thought process, because he actually had a TV show, The Curse, with Emma Stone a few years ago that premiered on Paramount Plus, and it's on that streaming service. So he kind of felt like, how do I approach this when I'm thinking about being a little bit nasty to them as to why they got rid of an episode when they have other shows and other things that that talk about Hitler and talk about Nazi Germany and things like that on Paramount Plus. So it was an incredibly impressive episode, and what I always expect out of him, though, is very insightful and very fun, deadpan humor. But he rehearsed a scene where he would visit Paramount Plus Germany, and of course he made Paramount Plus Germany look like it was out of the Third Reich. So just a very fun episode. It might not be for everybody, but I'm telling you, if you've never watched this guy, this is the episode just to watch, just to see the creativity in terms of his storytelling. And it starts off so innocuous as like an American Idol ripoff, because he's trying to teach co-pilots to be able to stand up to their captain pilot, to be able to say, hey, we shouldn't do something because we're going to crash or something's going to bad's going to happen. And it goes all into the deep into the rabbit's hole of him, again, trying to figure out the best way to approach something that impacts him on a daily basis too. So great episode. I just felt like I probably don't explain it well enough because it's that much smarter than me, but
well, you know the vibe I'm getting. Springtime and springtime for Hitler and the producers.
Yeah, right.
That's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah, and at one point, this is a scripted reality series, but at one point he's hired this actor to be the head of Paramount Plus Germany, and he's very German-like, and he's, at one point he says, well, go off script. Don't say what I told you to write. Tell me what you think as your person. And then this guy totally undresses Nathan Fielder's, perception of how great he thinks he is by standing up to Paramount Plus. It's just a great episode. Well worth the trouble, and it's better than I'm explaining it. I apologize for my terrible.
Here it is. I haven't watched the show, that, but it makes me want to go check it out. So
yeah, and the first season is hilarious too. I mean, This is a guy, if you've ever seen the Nathan For You, it's very dry and deadpan humor. It's kind of like reactionary shots of him looking at a camera, much like The Office, but in a less, specific way, I guess, maybe. But it's more of him just kind of trying to help real people, and you get introduced to like slice of life people that you've never met before, that are almost like you don't expect them to be real life people, but they are themselves and they are real life, and they just kind of are unique little characters in their own. So, and I think that's, when you're thinking about like documentaries, and obviously this is a very scripted documentary series, but it's a very character-based, unique character-based building where you care about people and you kind of get to know them a little bit more. Reminds you of a lot of the great documentaries like Hoop Dreams, for instance, where it's more than just about basketball. You're getting introduced to characters and kids and people, and they become characters on the screen, even though they don't realize they are. So definitely check it out if you have a little bit of time. It's only about 40-minute episodes, but season 2, episode 2, I think is a must watch for me.
Okay.
All right. Well, as always, George, we appreciate your time. We will talk again very soon. We hope you have fun at the movies. And as always, you can read everything George writes at beaconjournal.com. George, I guess you get kind of a week off maybe from streaming and movies, although I'm sure you're
No. Apple TV's got a new an Ewan McGregor documentary series. So we can take a look at that.
All right, fantastic. Well, sounds good. As always, George, we appreciate you stopping by. Thanks so much, and you have fun at the movies and have fun at home watching a variety of pop culture items.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.